the one thing that I take away from this episode, Diddy, Khloe Kardashian, and Kourtney Kardashian, I would even say, know something, or know a lot, honestly. From old episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, the one that was closest to Diddy, it seems, was definitely Khloe.
Anyone who has even attended one of these Diddy parties is now a target.
Denzel Washington, Usher, Damon Dash, just a couple of the names that have warned all of us about Hollywood parties over the years. Denzel Washington had fighting words for Puffy at one of the disgraced rappers' parties back in the early 2000s. The Oscar-winning actor screamed at Puff Daddy before he stormed out of an all-night party that the music mogul hosted in 2003, at least according to a trusted anonymous source. So allegedly this insider was somebody who was super friendly with Puffy in the early 2000s, and Denzel screamed, "You don't respect anybody." So Denzel and his wife Pauletta had been partying until dawn with Puffy, and they had seen something and then they stormed out. I want to know what they saw and why was it so bad that they had to leave. When Usher was just getting his start in the music industry, Puff Daddy was his legal guardian because he produced the singer's self-titled 1994 debut album. Usher has often explained that during his time under Puffy's wing, he was exposed to a lot. In 2004, during the era of Usher's Confessions album, he said in a Rolling Stone interview that Puffy introduced him to a totally different set of stuff. He mentioned how intercourse is so hot in the industry, man. And remember that in Puffy's home, there was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room doing it. You never knew what was gonna happen. I don't know, folks, the events that Usher described sound kinda similar to these freak-offs, which are at the center of a lot of lawsuits right now. During his 35th birthday celebration in 2013, Usher spoke about his time with Puff Daddy, who was allegedly in attendance at the celebration. In a speech, Usher described the I'll Be Missing You rappers' parties, saying, "I was introduced to everything by Puff Daddy when I was under his guidance. Parties, women, coitus, and substances. I've had a taste of it, but I'd never let it take me over." Usher continued, saying that he wouldn't pass on any of the advice that he was given. In 2016, during an interview with Howard Stern, Usher once again recalled some of these parties, which were often nicknamed Puffy Flavor Camp, and he said there were very curious things taking place at the parties. And when asked if he'd ever send anybody to Puffy Flavor Camp, he responded with a hell no. He hasn't said much else about this time period in recent memory, nor has he publicly addressed all the charges and lawsuits. However, in September of 2024, Vance noticed that Usher had scrubbed his Twitter profile of every single post. He claimed he was hacked, but what was he hiding? Come on, fangirls, you know what to do. Nearly 2 weeks before Puff Daddy was even arrested, actor and comedian Marlon Wayans admitted that he'd attended plenty of parties hosted by the rapper, but he wasn't privy to any nefarious activities that had been reported in previous legal documents. He said he'd always leave the gatherings early, but a lot of folks on social media are kinda doubting his words. One person responded directly to a post that Marlon made on Twitter back in 2009 where he spoke highly of these parties. Said, "Been doing Puffy parties for 15 years, and I must say you never let me down, Puff. Ain't no party like a Puffy party," which you're gonna hear that a lot today. So a lot of folks were saying like, so you say you left these parties early. I call BS. The truth shall set you free. Well, just last week, Marlon doubled down on his original remarks about leaving the parties early. He shared these on the Club Shay Shay podcast and said, "Yep, and I still stand by that. I've never seen or been a part of nothing but good vibes and energy with clothes on." So yeah, I'm not rushing to take down old tweets or anything. I ain't got to hide, period. I have been to plenty of Puffy parties. He said, "I left early. I swear to you. I've never seen it. Those aren't the type of parties I go to. I don't frequent those type of parties. And even if I go, like, I'd never seen any of this." When I heard about it, I was like, when did that happen? At what time did this go down? Because I was there until 3:30. You mean at 3:32? So they waited for me to leave? Like, alright, good, that Wayans gone. He talked too much? So he did admit that he's seen substances at parties, but he was unfamiliar with all other reports. He said, "I watch how I conduct myself because I'm not doing this just for me. I have to answer to God, I have to answer to my brothers, I have to answer to my legacy. I can't act a certain way. I have to answer to people who want to be like me. There's a lot for me to answer to. I owe it to my fans to walk through this life and be an example, as best I can." Okay, but like, if you were there that late, Damon Dash said, "I didn't go to those parties back in September when photos resurfaced of him at a Puffy party with Jay-Z and J-Lo. He said, "Yeah, I went to one in the Hamptons about 20 years ago with Aaliyah, and that's about it." But a lot of of people were at those, you know what I mean? And he said nothing happened in the Hamptons. He said that was the day he met Aaliyah. We hung out there and then we left and then that's what happened. That was 20 years ago. It was not in LA or Miami. And he said, I know everybody's gonna play games with those photos. It's all good. I don't really care. So Dash dated Aaliyah from the year 2000 until her passing. So, okay. Credible timeline. Cat Williams said they've had to turn down $50 million 4 times just to protect his integrity and that certain hole they were telling you about. So this was during another interview on the Club Shay Shay podcast, which, okay, interesting. He said, because Puffy be wanting to party and you gotta tell him no. You gotta tell him no. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely. At the time, he also teased that more celebrity scandals would soon come to light, adding, it's up for all of them. It don't matter if it's Puffy or whoever you is. So who else? Why don't you bring something to light, my dude? Jenny Mollen claimed in a September 2024 Instagram video that she had turned down an invitation to one of Puff's parties. She said one time when I was in San Diego and this guy came over and he's like, my boss wants to meet you. She had on like a regular button-up shirt, jeans, like nothing really like promiscuous or giving any kind of fun ideas. But she said, and I quote, this guy's like, my boss wants to meet you. And he's like this big bouncer looking man in a fur coat. And he said, we're having a party in my room. Do you guys want to come? And she's like, oh my god, guys, would I have been in a freak off? Like, that's what I'm reading. It's called a freak off. Would I have been captured in his room in my hideous maroon shirt? Would there be footage to this day of me in some sort of crazy exploitative freak off? Slow down. Possibly. Don't think you would have been in that shirt, but okay. According to former music industry insider Tom Swoope, who has recounted many of his memories of surviving these white parties on his YouTube channel, first off in my opinion, story time, these parties were separated into tiers of access. So there was general admission, and then we got all these tiers, ending with the entrance to the inner sanctum, where the real partying went on. This allegedly included humiliating guests on the promise of record deals or money. Swoope and a lot of others have spoken about substances that were present. We talked about that already today. So things that make you see things, no snow. Anything that can be considered booger sugar was there. As an industry insider when he first attended these parties, Swoope described an eye-popping regality. Look, these parties were allegedly a way to integrate hip-hop into society of the mega-rich, to find an intersection of both worlds. Puffy said he wanted to strip away everyone's image and put everybody in the same color and on the same level. And Swoope recalled it as more of a power trip for the rapper. So at one point, finding himself in the same room as Puffy, Swoope alleged that Puffy told a young artist to perform a kind of act on his bodyguard in return for $100,000 and a record deal, before claiming it was a joke when the young man was on the cusp of submitting. Swoope recalled Puffy wielding his power with words that echo the threat contained in allegations in the lengthy criminal complaints that were recently unsealed. Swoope claimed that Puffy told him, I can make anybody do anything because this life is what they want and I got the keys to the castle. Swoope said he left the party thinking, if this is what goes on behind the curtain and you're all comfortable with this, nah, I don't want this in my life. He said there were so many celebrities who were cool with who he was and what he did to entertain them. It's not isolated. You all need to think of everybody when you think of him and the access and the amount of people that were there. And that's all for today, folks. See you next time.